not a song, so why do I find...
I'm Jake.
I'm Tom.
And we are VIMTV, Velocities in Music. Today, folks, we're going to review the new record from a band called Islands. The record is entitled A Sleep and A Forgetting. That is a very, very interesting album title. Another very interesting album title. Islands is a band, you know, they came out in, was it 2009, 2010? They came out with Vapors. I think it was 2010.
It might have been.
I think it was 2010 that they came out with Vapors. Correct us if we're wrong. And that was a very electronic heavy album, kind of back to Return to C style, from just without the rap, their first album. You know, and this is a very different move for Islands. Asleep and A Forgetting is very low key. You get a lot of doo-wop sound, a lot of soul influences on this, and it's kind of a heartbreak record. It's very minimal in sound, and you know, from Thorburn, the main guy behind it, I'll actually quote him here. I wrote this down just so I could quote him in the episode. I left New York after the end of a relationship and came to Los Angeles. There was a piano where I was staying at, and that's where I wrote most of the song. This record deals with loss with memory and forgetting and with dreaming. I started on Valentine's Day, and it's coming out on Valentine's Day. This album, and I read elsewhere that this is about this guy's. He went through a end of a relationship, and he was hurt and feeling it, and he wrote an album about it. Now, Thorburn has an incredible way with his lyrics, and that's always been present in every album, and he still is here, and I think Tom's going to get into more of that a little bit later. But just to give you just kind of a general feel for that sound, this is something very different if you're an Islands fan, so be prepared when you listen to it to have a different experience. Tom, what was your take on A Sleep and A Forgetting?
Well, this album was tough at first, like I've been saying that a lot tonight too, geez. But because the songs are pretty low energy, the intensity never gets much above a 6 or a 7.
Right.
I mean, like tracks like Never Go Solo, like they, you know, there's some kind of loud parts, but in general, it's kind of a quiet, soft, solemn album, which is interesting, you know, when you think about it coming from a bad breakup that really left this guy heartbroken. So I almost would have liked him to take us to that kind of dark place a little more, because I feel like it's a little reserved, like almost like he was worried to really put all of himself into it. But as Jake hinted at, I think some of that is made up for in the vocal, or in the lyrics, because the lyrics really do a good job of making you think about what the music means to you and to Nick as an artist. You know, the guy singing it. Because like you've got track 2, This Is Not a Song, and then you know, so it makes you think right off the bat. I thought I was listening to a song, but if it's not a song, what is it?
You fooled me!
Yeah. And then, you know, that line, it's a recurring theme about talking about music in music, and kind of this like musical existential crisis of music not being music comes up again in the next song, Never Go Solo. There's another song later, I don't remember exactly which one, he talks about a verse and chorus and bridge within the song. So it really makes you wonder, you know, is this all more than music to this guy who's really trying to pour his heart out into this, or is he going the opposite direction? I don't know. Maybe if I read even more closely into the lyrics, I would be able to get more of that. But it's almost like he leaves it vague on purpose at times.
It's like it was a game to him, and this album became the coping mechanism in which he dealt with these issues. You know, Islands is a very heady band. They've always been a heady band, so I'm assuming that the people driving the music, and specifically Nick, is a heady kind of dude. So that would make it so that, you know, there's not a lot of emoting here. Now that is kind of my biggest issue with this album is I feel like it's the only way you can really get into it, because the sound is so minimal. It's tough to get into without connecting on an emotional level. That's not something that he was able to convince me to do, and I think that it was mostly because of the general lack of intensity or attitude, and I attribute it to the songwriting and the vocal presentation. You know, he doesn't get very emotive. There's not a lot of darkness or anger. The closest it gets is on track 6, Can't Feel My Face, where you have that kind of keyboard synth part that sounds like Wolf Parade. You know, when it kicks in. but that's about as angry or dark as it gets throughout the entire album until you get to the closing track. Same thing, which I think does kind of capture a kind of a just downtrodden, just emptiness kind of sound to it. But other than that, I mean, I didn't never feel like it really grabbed me. So it kind of was harder for me to relate to, and I think justly I kind of lowered the score a little bit for it. Tom, anything else you want to throw in about Asleep and Forgetting?
Not particularly. I thought it was pretty good, but I think that there were some missed opportunities.
Right. I'm thinking 71 is where I'm at with this.
I'm going 75.
Right. So I'm appreciative of this direction. It's kind of, I'm hoping that this becomes like a gem in the Islands discography, because this is a band that's, going to be, I think, prolific. They keep putting out, this is their 4th album, in, just a number of years. So I think that, seeing as the band grows, seeing more albums that come out, I think this will be a very different album, almost like Beck's Sea Change and how different that was in Beck's discography. But that album, I was able to really
He really takes you to that place that he was in on that
I couldn't
album,
help comparing this album to that.
I didn't think about that, but it's a good point.
That's where I'm at with it. What did you guys think? Let us know at www.velocitiesandmusic.com or youtube.com/velocitiesandmusic. Your opinion matters very, very, very much to Tom and I. So anything that you guys have on your mind about our reviews or about music you're into right now that you want to hear us review, or any new stuff that's coming out, you're our first outlet for making these schedules, and you have a say in the albums we review. So we value you. It's all about you guys. Let us know at www.velocitiesandmusic.com. Also follow us on Twitter, like us on Facebook. That's where we find out who you are. I'm Jake.
I'm Tom.
And we are VIMTV, moving music critique forward.
No one can tell you